We're at a strange point in online discourse, particularly around books and media. Somewhere along the line, taste became a battleground and conversations about literature turned into moral litmus tests. And nothing reveals this more clearly than the way people talk about men's reading preferences. I've seen someone post something simple like, "What is male taste in books? I don't get it. Are men really just here reading misogynistic stories for fun?" And instead of opening a thoughtful, interesting dialogue, it becomes a dog pile of assumptions and cheap shots. My own experience within my comment section recently. Conservative men crying is the funniest genre. Your entire video is just defensive. You sound like a fragile bro. Why don't you stop crying and just write better? Maybe you'll get published. You're obviously right-wing, so this entire conversation isn't a waste of time. We've traded curiosity for contempt. We've decided that any story that doesn't speak directly to us, it must be inherently flawed. This mindset isn't just lazy, it's dishonest. Worst, it shut down the very conversations that are meant to help us understand one another. If you find this video thought-provoking, hit that subscribe button. Consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. Let's build a space where curiosity wins over contempt. There's a kind of person online, hell, sometimes we're all this person, who has mistaken sarcasm for insight. They see a thoughtful attempt to explore the complexities of male-coded storytelling and responds with a flippant LMAO, men who literally write a whole novel about war before going to therapy. Or bro thinks he's emotionally repressed dad and the 700 pages of silence is literature. It's funny, sure, but it also erases the point. We're not engaging with stories anymore. We're not engaging with anything like that. We're engaging with the meme version of it, designed for dunking and performative distance. It tells the person trying to speak we're not listening, we've already made up our minds. This is how discourse dies, not with a bang, but with a smug quote tweet. Let's name some books that go inherently side-eyed for being too male. These books are brilliant, by the way, and they do get side-eyed by these people. Fight Club, American Psycho, Blood Meridian, Infinite Jest, The Road, A Clockwork Orange, Dune, The Catcher in the Rye. To some people, this list is like flashing a warning sign. These books are violent, emotionally stunted, problematic. If you read them, you must be too. But this kind of thinking is intellectually shallow. Are some of these books flawed? Of course, all books are. Are some of them even intentionally repulsive? Yes, because they're trying to interrogate the very ugliness they portray. That's the point of American Psycho. That's why Fight Club works. It's satire. It's not an instruction manual. When people reduce books to this is just sexist or this is just toxic, they're skipping the actual engagement part. They're saying, I've seen enough book talk videos about it and decided who you are. There's no room for interpretation, no room for context, no room for the idea that someone could read Blood Meridian and not just see brutality but beauty, not just violence but theology, not just blood but consequences. A lot of male-coded books are about silence, endurance, repression, failure, and so on. They're not always likable books. They don't always present likable characters. They often don't care if you like them at all. At some point, and to some people, that's threatening. We've built an online culture that caters emotional openness, empathy, communication, and softness. That's not a bad thing. Those are deeply important traits, but when a story doesn't reflect those values openly, or creates characters who don't embody them, the reaction is often rejection. But here's the thing. A man reading The Road isn't asking for permission to cry. He's trying to understand the weight of loss, the ache of fatherhood, an instinct to survive in a ruined world. It's quite a book. A sad one. And its power isn't diminished because it doesn't come with a content warning or a Tumblr-friendly protagonist. The same is true of countless other books men love. They aren't always about being the best or the strongest. Often they're about being alone, about being afraid, about enduring something you can't name. And when you call those stories problematic, when you call the men who love them fragile, you're telling them that they have no place in a conversation unless they perform vulnerability your way. Your performative, shallow version of vulnerability. Let's be clear. Nobody is saying you can't critique books that men love. You should. You should critique all books. We should all do that. Literature is a living thing. It's shaped by the world it comes from. But critique is not the same as mockery. It's not the same as those gotcha takes I've seen over and over again. Of course men love this. It has no women in it. Imagine thinking the things that carry is deep. It's giving, I've never spoken to a woman in real life. Bro read Hemingway once and he thinks he understands grief. These comments aren't about critique, they're about superiority. They're about gatekeeping conversation that should be accessible to everyone. Real critiques ask, what is this book trying to do? How does it succeed? How does it fail? What assumptions does it make? Who does it speak to and why? Contempt just says, ugh, men. There's a real irony in how these conversations play out. The same people who say they want more nuanced characters and more thoughtful storytelling and more emotional intelligence are often the first to shut down anyone who expresses a perspective outside of their approved narrative. A guy making a video trying to explain why Dune hits him hard, why the silence in the road broke him, why he sees his father in No Country for Old Men. The response? Cop. Maybe if you weren't so fragile you would like real literature. You only like this because you hate women. We've created a climate that only acceptable male taste is one that conforms to the expectations of people who don't share it. And when men push back, not angrily but with reflection, they're told they're being defensive or at worst rude or the flippant, you're a conservative. As if conservatism is the only reason someone might like a different type of story or value it. It's lazy, it's dishonest, and it's a loss for everyone who actually wants literature to be a place of depth, messy, human complexity. One of the most honest comments I've received said, as a woman I struggle to understand what men want that isn't sexist. I jump to the worst conclusions and I want to understand it. That's a good comment. It's vulnerable, it's curious. It doesn't have to agree, but it wants to listen. More of that, please. Because if your first response to someone sharing a book that shaped them is stop crying or you sound like a conservative, you're not actually interested in dialogue, you're interested in dominance. You don't have to like Fight Club, you don't have to defend American Psycho. But you do have to ask, why do these stories stick with people? What pain do they reflect? What masculinity do they reveal or critique? If we can't even have a conversation without someone shouting, get over it, bro, we're not building a better literature culture, we're making it smaller. Because you watch Book Talk, and you considered yourself well read because you love romance novels with dragons.